For Fiat Punto, a wide range of powertrains is available from 0.9 to 1.9 liters. Among gasoline engines in our market, the most widely aspirated are 1.2 liters, 65, 69 and 80 horsepower, and 1.4, 8-valve 77 horsepower, 16-valve 95 and 105 horsepower. Turbocharged version of cars with a 1.4 liters T-jet engine with a capacity of 120, 155 and 180 horsepower. Multi-air turbo 135, 165 and 180 horsepower are also quite common. But Fiat Punto with a 0.9 liters twin-air engine, 85, 105 horsepower, is quite rare in our market. Among diesel units, the most widely used engines of the multi-jet series with a volume of 1.3, 75-95 horsepower, 1.9, 120 horsepower, and 1.6, 120 horsepower, installed since 2012. The least problems among gasoline units deliver atmospherics. With careful and proper operation, these engines bother their owners up to 200–250,000 kilometers only with minor breakdowns, such as failure of the ignition coil, sensors, fuel pump and generator. Cracks appear. Many 16-valve engines experience increased oil consumption after 100,000 kilometers, up to 1.5 liters per 1,000 kilometers. The engine uses a timing belt drive with a recommended belt replacement interval of every 60,000 kilometers. The peculiarity of this drive is that when the timing belt breaks, the pistons do not bend the valve, does not apply to a 16-valve engine. On a run of 150 to 100,000 kilometers, the phase shifter needs to be replaced. On the same run, oil leaks often appear in the crankshaft ventilation system. The gas exhaust pipe bursts, and its replacement is expensive. Also, nozzle connectors, ignition modules, lambda sensors, and an oil pump are not famous for their reliability. With frequent use of low-quality fuel, catalysts serve no more than 150,000 kilometers, for 16-valve up to 200,000 kilometers. If you rarely change the oil in the engine, the likelihood of clogging of oil channels in the cylinder head increases. Problems with camshaft lubrication and oil leaks occur at the joints of the oil line between the camshaft bed and its cover. 8-valve engines do not have hydraulic lifters, so every 60,000 kilometers it is recommended to adjust the valve clearance by selecting washers. When carrying out any work on the valves, it is recommended to change the sealing rings. Closer to 250,000 kilometers, many instances require cylinder head repair. After buying a car with a naturally aspirated engine, be sure to install crankcase protection if it is not already there. The fact is that the crankcase is quite fragile and is too low for our operating conditions. Despite the small volume of naturally aspirated engines, their average resource is about 300,000 kilometers. Turbo engines have proven themselves well in terms of reliability, and besides, they provide this small car with excellent dynamics. Of the features of this type of engine, one can note their exactness in terms of quality of service and the fear of detonation, especially the 120 horsepower version of the first years of production. The weak points of these motors include turbine control mechanism, which have problems with the reliability. In addition, due to the strong heat load, there is high probability of cracks appearing on the turbine housing and exhaust manifolds in the hottest part. On the significant troubles, one can note the current pneumatic valves on a short resource, 5–6 years, of rubber intakes elements. Unlike turbocharged engine from other manufacturers, Fiat turned out to be solid and strong units that can withstand high loads well. Even the most powerful version of the engine has a decent resource. Despite this, it is better not to abuse the cheap tuning, since the original pistons and nozzles are rather weak and the intercooler has a modest size. The 1.9 engine is well known to car lovers of Italian origin and is one of the best common rail diesel engine in terms of durability, cost for maintenance and repair. Despite the fact that this engine is devoid of serious design flaws, after a couple of 100 kilometers of run, certain cost for its repair will still be required. In our operation conditions, the elements of the fuel system, injectors and high-pressure fuel pumps are delivered first of all. And here the problem is no longer the reliability of these elements, but the quality of the fuel that is sold at our gas station. In addition to everything, the EGR valve and the dual-mass flying wheel rarely go more than 200,000 kilometers, since replacement is inexpensive. As for the resource of this engine, today there are instances that have traveled more than 400,000 kilometers without major repairs. The 1.6 engine not so long ago, in 2012, replaced the 1.9 engine and has not yet had time to become widespread. Among the shortcomings of this unit, one can note the sensitivity of the fuel system to the quality of diesel fuel and the short resource of the DPF filter. Also worth noting is the higher cost of repairs and maintenance. 1.3. The multi-jet is one of the smallest automotive diesel engine in the world. Despite this, with timely and most importantly high-quality service, it is able to cover more than 100,000 kilometers without expensive repairs. There are two types of engine in this series, with and without particulate filter. Oddly enough, but the particulate filter, even in our operation condition, has a fairly large resource, so you should not be afraid of the ego. But he, nevertheless, has a weak point, the filter sensor. If the sensor fails, you will have to pay about $200 only for the part itself. The EGR valve, the fuel pressure regulator in the common rail power system, and the fuel injector may need to be replaced after 100,000 kilometers. A metal chain is used in the timing system, but this didn't affect the reliability of the assembly. Often the chain stretched without leaving even 130,000 kilometers. There are instances on which chain replacement was not required until 250,000 kilometers, but this is a rarity. In any case, the condition of the chain must be regularly monitored, since stretching the chain can result in its breakage with serious consequences. It is also necessary to monitor the oil level, since even a slight decrease leads to improper operation of the chain tensioner. Over time, antifreeze leaks from under the thermostat. If the problem is ignored, the likelihood of engine overheating increased with all the consequences. On the cars imported from abroad, with the advent of cold weather, there is a problem with an arbitrary engine stop. This happens due to the fact that the ventilation of the crankcase gases freezes, and the resulting ice blocks the engine ventilation system. To solve the problem, you will have to install autonomous heating. Two types of gearboxes were used on the Fiat Punto III: mechanics and a dual-logic robotic gearbox, sales speed of its own production. In a 5-speed manual transmission, the most vulnerable point is the cables of the gear shift mechanism, the bushings of the linkage of the lever and the clutch cable. As a rule, they become unusable on a run of 100–150,000 kilometers. It is also worth noting the propensity of oil seals, actuators and shifter rod seals to the appearance of oil smudges. On turbocharged version of the Fiat Punto, a 6-speed manual with a 2-mass flywheel is used, the resource of which rarely exists 150,000 kilometers. If you often drive at low speed, its resource will be much less. The Fiat Punto 3-speed robotic gearbox is poorly adapted to our operation conditions, working at low temperature. This is the main reason for the short transmission resource. The hydraulic cuffs fail. Also in winter, many Grande Puntos had leaks on the sensors on the reservoir of the RCP actuator. To prolong the life of the box in severe frost, do not start driving until the car is fully warmed up. Another feature of the robot is the high cost of repairs. If the box gets depressed, you need to be ready to shell out a tidy back even in an unofficial service. The weak points of this type of transmission include an electric pump and the pressure accumulators. If the pump fails, the dealer will probably offer you to replace it with a new one for $700–800. Despite the fact that it can be repaired without problems by spending no more than $40 on motor brushes and consumables. But the accumulator cannot be repaired and it will have to be changed about $200. A clutch kit is also enough for a short time, 60–80,000 kilometers. Of the attachments, potentiometers, resistors most often require replacement, $250–300. Also, electronics can also cause trouble up to 100,000 kilometers. Sensors will fail. The average resource of the robot before overhaul is 150–200,000 kilometers. Fiat was one of the first to start galvanizing parts for the main body elements. This was done not only to protect the metal from environmental influences, but also to save a little on pain. However, only external body parts are made of galvanized steel, and elements such as wheel archer and the bottom are protected only by paint, which, frankly, is not of the best quality here. Therefore, if the car has not been additionally treated with anti-corrosion agents, it is quite possible to find pockets of corrosion on it. The main thing is to know where to look. Rust appears most quickly in a niche behind the front mudguard. It happens due to its unsuccessful design. The original mudguard creates a pocket in which sand and dirt accumulates over time. Also subject to corrosion are the front and rear archers, seals, door hinges, and the hood, which as a rule begins to corrode from the inside, one-sided galvanizing of the metal. On the bottom, the seams of the spars and the seams of the front end of the floor reinforcement along the central tunnel are at risk. As for the quality of the paintwork, it, like most modern cars, is rather weak and poorly resists mechanical stress. This was the reason that in most spacemen older than 5-6 years, the state of the paintwork is far from ideal. There are a large number of chips and scratches. Other body problems include soft protective plastic of the front optics and a windshield that is weak to external influence. The service life of glass in our operating conditions rarely exists 5 years. It is overriding the strongly glare at night. When replacing, chasing the original, Pilkington does not make much sense, since it is slightly superior in quality to Chinese counterparts. The protective plastic of the headlights does not last much longer, it becomes cloudy. In addition, in the optics of Velo and Magneti Marelli, an extremely unsuccessful electrocorrector is used, located inside the headlight. In addition, there are problems with the reliability of contacts, often burn out, and lessness, fail quickly. Interior design as well as finishing materials are the weakest link in the car, boring design and cheap plastic. But the build quality is not satisfactory. As for the problem areas of the Fiat Punto III cabin, fortunately there are not many of them. Most often, the owners blame the non-working trunk opening lock, the plastic case and micro-switches break. Another weak point is the cable for the drive of the outer handle of the rear door. Quite often they stretch and break. Often the same problem befalls the cables of the power window drives. The washer hose from the reservoir to the rear door is also not famous for its reliability. It consists of 3 parts and often breaks at the connection. If a hose breaks at the front of the vehicle, there is a high chance that moisture will enter the fuse box. On many instances, steering column backlash appears over the years. In the electrics, the steering column cable turned out to be the weakest point. It frays rather quickly. Because of this, the button of the steering wheel, the light control switch stop working, the errors appears on the instrument panel. Often the reason for the incorrect operation of the RCP is the electronic switch on the brake pedal. Fortunately, its replacement is inexpensive. Most often the switch breaks when you press the brake pedal hard. The multimedia system with Blue and Me turned out to be buggy and inconvenient to use. On cars with high mileage, you need to pay attention to the condition of the air conditioning compressor and the electric motors of the Viper drives. The Fiat Punto uses the traditional suspension for this class of car. In front, McPherson strut, behind, a beam. In good condition, the chassis of the car is quite comfortable, but it does not have any special frills. If we talk about reliability, it is worth noting that it does not have excessive strain. Despite this, for accurate drivers, the main elements north 100,000 km or more. In addition to the stabilizer struts, which are not famous for their reliability, on many modern cars, a small resource of silent blocks can be noted, 40–60,000 km go. The front levers may be asked for a replacement after 60–80,000 km. Ball bearings, wheel bearings and shock absorber support bearings are delivered closer to 100,000 km. The front shock absorbers can last up to 150,000 km, but the rear ones wear out a little earlier, 90–120,000 km. The rear suspension is considered indestructible. The silent blocks of the beam nurse more than 200,000 km. The steering system uses an electric power steering rack. The rail is quite reliable and up to 150,000 km. Few people are bothered by breakdowns. But the EUR can exploit the nerves. The steering position sensor fails. The manufacturer claims that the EUR only changed with a rail. They say the unit is disposable and should not be repaired. However, there are services that have long mastered the repair of rails with EUR. To check the performance of the electric booster, you need to turn the steering wheel on a stationary car from lock to lock. During rotation, there should not be extraneous sound, knock and jams. As for consumables, their resource can be called acceptable. The original tie rod ends go on average 100–120,000 km, traction up to 150–100,000 km. The Fiat Punto III brake system copes well with its duties, but its terms of reliability to Xi has a couple of moments. Most of the complaints are caused by weak seals of the guide calipers. If they are not replaced in time, the calipers may jam. Drum brakes are installed at the back. It would seem that the design is simple and reliable, if not one thing. The brake line tubes are laid in a special niche in the bottom, which not only protects them from mechanical damage, but also contributes to the appearance of corrosion. Therefore, if you do not want to be left without brakes at the most important moment, periodically check the condition of the line and treat it with anti-corrosion agents. If you are the owner of this car model, please describe the problem that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your review that will help readers of our site when choosing a car.